Everyone in Rosewood Heights envied Esmeralda's charming beauty. The scream that tore through the midnight air of Rosewood Heights wasn't the kind that came from physical pain. It was primal, something ancient, the sound of a soul being torn apart. Neighbors startled awake, their hearts pounding, but no one dared venture outside. They knew which mansion it came from. They knew who lived there. Esmeralda Thorne. Her name itself was a whisper in this affluent neighborhood, spoken with equal parts reverence and fear. At 45, Esmeralda possessed the kind of beauty that made people forget to breathe. Her skin glowed with an impossible luminescence, her eyes sparkled with youth that defied her years, and her empire, eternal radiance, dominated the beauty industry with products that promised results that seemed almost supernatural. From her bedroom window across the street, Zara Palmer watched as a single light flickered in the east wing of Esmeralda's mansion. The scream had awakened her, but unlike her neighbors, Zara felt something pull at her core, a strange connection to the sound that made her blood run cold. "It's just the wind," her roommate Lynn muttered sleepily from the other bed. But Zara knew better. She had heard that sound before, in her dreams. Dreams where she stood before a mirror that reflected not her face, but something ancient and hungry staring back. Outside, the moon cast long shadows across Esmeralda's immaculate garden. For a moment, Zara thought she saw a figure moving between the rose bushes, too tall, too thin to be human. Then it was gone. In the morning, everything would appear normal again. Esmeralda would emerge from her mansion looking flawless, her smile dazzling as she greeted admirers and business associates. No one would mention the scream. No one ever did. But something had changed. The veil between Esmeralda's perfect facade and whatever lurked beneath had thinned, just for a moment. And Zara, with her newly minted certificate in cosmetic artistry and her inexplicable dreams, was about to step into a world where beauty wasn't just skin deep. It was something that could be cultivated, harvested, and stolen. Tomorrow, she would begin her apprenticeship at Eternal Radiance Studios. Tonight, she pulled her blanket tighter around her shoulders as another sound drifted through the air, softer this time. Not a scream, but a sob. The sound of someone who had everything, yet was losing something precious. Zara closed her eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. In the darkness behind her eyelids, she saw only a face, beautiful, terrified, and somehow familiar, silently mouthing words she couldn't understand. A warning, perhaps, or a plea for help. The Eternal Radiance Studio stood in stark contrast to the other buildings in downtown Aurelian City. Esmeralda's beauty empire resembled a Greco-Roman temple, with marble columns and gold leaf accents that caught the morning light and seemed to glow from within. "Impressive, isn't it?" asked the receptionist, a woman with perfect features who introduced herself as Daphne. "Miss Thorne believes that beauty should be worshipped." Her smile never reached her eyes. "You must be Zara." Zara nodded, clutching her portfolio tighter against her chest. The lobby was cool despite the summer heat outside, almost unnaturally so. The air smelled of sandalwood and something else, something sharp that reminded her of hospital antiseptic. "Follow me," Daphne said, her heels clicking on the marble floor. "Miss Thorne is particularly interested in meeting you." This caught Zara by surprise. "She is, but I'm just an apprentice. She personally approves all new artists." Daphne's tone suggested this was both an honor and a threat, especially those with natural talent. They passed through a series of progressively more opulent rooms. In each one, beautiful people worked on other beautiful people, applying makeup, performing facial treatments, consulting on cosmetic procedures. But there was something off about the atmosphere. The clients smiled too widely. The staff moved too precisely. And everywhere, portraits of Esmeralda watched from the walls, her eyes seeming to follow Zara's movement. "Wait here," Daphne instructed, leaving Zara in a small antechamber decorated with ancient-looking artifacts. Glass cases displayed worn brushes, clay pots with remnants of colored powders, and what appeared to be ritual masks from various cultures. A placard read, "The History of Beauty, Tools of Transformation Throughout the Ages." Zara leaned closer to examine a particularly ornate mirror with symbols etched around its frame. As she did, she could have sworn she saw something move in its reflection, not her face, but a shadow passing behind her. She whirled around. The room was empty. They speak to you, don't they? The voice made Zara jump. Esmeralda Thorne stood in the doorway, even more striking in person than in her photographs. She wore a simple white dress that emphasized her flawless olive skin and raven black hair. Not a line marked her face, though rumors put her age closer to 50 than 40. I'm sorry, Zara stammered. The artifacts. Esmeralda glided forward. Most people pass by without a second glance, but you feel them, don't you? Something in Esmeralda's gaze made Zara want to look away, but she couldn't. Those eyes, they were mesmerizing, but also hungry. I've always been drawn to beautiful things, Zara admitted. Beauty is power, Esmeralda said softly, reaching out to touch Zara's cheek with cool fingers. And power must be fed. Remember that, little one. A chill ran down Zara's spine as Esmeralda's thumb traced her cheekbone. In that brief touch, she felt something pass between them, an assessment, a claiming. You'll start tomorrow, Esmeralda announced. With the basics. Though I suspect you already know more than most. As Zara turned to leave, dizzy with a mixture of excitement and unease, Esmeralda called after her. Oh, and Zara, dreams are important here. Pay attention to yours. Outside, the summer heat struck Zara like a physical blow after the unnatural coolness of the studio. She took a deep breath, trying to clear her head. How did Esmeralda know about her dreams? Remember, the brush is an extension of your soul. Esmeralda instructed the small group of apprentices gathered in the training room. It doesn't just apply pigment, it transfers energy. Zara sat with 5 other newcomers, all young women with flawless skin and hungry eyes. The training room was circular, with mirrors covering every wall and ceiling, creating an infinity of reflections that made Zara slightly dizzy. Today, you'll practice on each other, Esmeralda continued. Observe how the products react differently to each face. Learn to read the skin, to see what it needs and what it fears. What it fears? Zara thought the phrasing odd, but the others nodded as if this made perfect sense. They were paired off. Zara's partner was Kira, a quiet girl with alabaster skin and unusual amber eyes. I've seen you before, Kira whispered as they set up their stations. In my dreams. Before Zara could respond, Esmeralda clapped her hands. Begin with the base. Remember, our eternal primer contains ingredients harvested under the new moon. Apply it with intention. The small pot of primer felt unusually warm in Zara's hands. As she opened it, that strange antiseptic smell wafted up again, stronger now. What is this made from? She asked Kira, who was applying her own primer with practice strokes. Best not to ask questions on the first day, Kira murmured, not meeting Zara's eyes. Miss Thorne doesn't like curiosity. As Zara began applying the primer to Kira's skin, something strange happened. The product seemed to sink into Kira's face too quickly, as if her skin were absorbing it hungrily. And where Zara's fingers touched, she felt a mild electrical current, not unpleasant, but definitely unnatural. More disturbing was how Kira's expression changed. Her eyes grew heavy-lidded, almost sedated, and a small smile played at her lips. It feels good, doesn't it? Esmeralda was suddenly behind them, watching with those penetrating eyes. The transfer of energy, the giving and taking. It tingles, Zara admitted, fighting the urge to wipe her hands on her apron. That's how you know it's working. Esmeralda's smile widened, revealing teeth that seemed just slightly too perfect. Now the foundation. Remember to blend at the edges, where the mask meets reality. Mask meets reality. Another odd turn of phrase. As Zara continued applying makeup to Kira, she noticed her partner becoming increasingly lethargic, while Zara herself felt strangely energized. By the time she finished the full face, foundation, contour, eyes, and lips, Zara was buzzing with vitality while Kira looked exhausted despite her now flawless appearance. Beautiful work, Esmeralda praised, examining Kira's face with a critical eye. You have the touch, Zara. The ability to draw out essence. The other apprentices were staring now, some with admiration, others with unmistakable envy. Tomorrow, you'll work with real clients, Esmeralda announced. Zara, you'll assist me personally with Mrs. Blackwood. After class, as Zara gathered her things, Kira grabbed her arm with surprising strength. Be careful, she whispered urgently. Don't let her see how special you are. The one she notices, they don't last long. Before Zara could ask what she meant, Kira was gone, slipping away like a ghost. That night, Zara dreamed of brushes that turned into serpents in her hands, of foundations that smelled of graveyard soil, and of Esmeralda's eyes watching her from every mirror in an endless maze of reflections. She woke gasping, her sheets soaked with sweat, as across the street, another scream pierced the night. On the next morning, Mrs. Blackwood was nothing like Zara expected. Rather than the wealthy socialite she had imagined, Eleanor Blackwood was a timid woman in her 60s, with faded blonde hair and hands that trembled slightly as she settled into the plush treatment chair. First time, Zara asked kindly, preparing the implements as Esmeralda had taught her. Oh no, dear. Mrs. Blackwood's voice was barely above a whisper. I've been coming to Miss Thorne for years. She's the only one who can make me look like I used to. There was something in her tone, a desperation, perhaps, or resignation, that made Zara uncomfortable. You have a beautiful bone structure, Zara said truthfully. The makeup will just enhance what's already there. Mrs. Blackwood's laugh was hollow. There's nothing already there anymore, my dear. That's why I need the special treatment. Before Zara could ask what she meant, Esmeralda swept into the private treatment room, bringing with her that now familiar cold energy. Eleanor, darling, she greeted Mrs. Blackwood with her kisses. Ready for your transformation? Please, Mrs. Blackwood whispered. I feel so drained lately. That's just age, my sweet. Esmeralda's voice was honey smooth. But we'll fix that. My new assistant has exceptional energy. Zara felt Esmeralda's eyes on her, assessing, measuring. For what? She wasn't sure. The treatment began normally enough. Zara cleansed Mrs. Blackwood's face while Esmeralda prepared what she called her secret formula behind a privacy screen. When she returned, she was wearing thin black gloves and carrying a small obsidian bowl filled with a pearlescent cream. Now, Zara, pay close attention, Esmeralda instructed. This is proprietary technology, a blend of rare botanical extracts and other elements. As Esmeralda began applying the cream to Mrs. Blackwood's face, Zara noticed two things simultaneously. The room grew noticeably colder, and Mrs. Blackwood's eyes rolled back slightly, showing the whites. Is she okay? Zara asked, alarmed. She's experiencing the full effect, Esmeralda replied calmly. Watch her skin. Before Zara's eyes, Mrs. Blackwood's face began to change. The sagging jowls tightened, the wrinkles around her eyes smoothed, and a healthy glow replaced the pallid complexion. It was as if years were melting away, not through the illusion of makeup, but through actual physical transformation. It was impossible, and yet Zara was watching it happen. How are you doing this? She whispered. Esmeralda's smile was enigmatic. Energy transfer, my dear. Everything has a cost. When the treatment was complete, Mrs. Blackwood looked 30 years younger, but she also looked diminished somehow. Her eyes, once bright with fear and hope, now seemed dulled, vacant. Thank you, she murmured as she rose unsteadily to her feet. Same time next month. Of course, Eleanor. Esmeralda's tone was dismissive now that the treatment was over. Zara will show you out. As Zara guided the woman to the door, Mrs. Blackwood suddenly gripped her wrist with surprising strength. She'll take it all eventually, she whispered. Not just the years. Everything. Before Zara could respond, Mrs. Blackwood was gone, hurrying down the hallway as if afraid of being overheard. That evening, as Zara was leaving the studio, she overheard Daphne on the phone at the reception desk. Yes, Mrs. Blackwood was here today. No, I'm afraid we don't have another appointment scheduled for her. Yes, I understand she's missing, but that's hardly our concern. No, I cannot check the security footage without Ms. Thorne's permission. Zara froze, her blood turning to ice. Missing? But she had just seen Mrs. Blackwood leave hours ago. Unless unless what she had seen wasn't Mrs. Blackwood at all, but something wearing her face. The thought was so disturbing that Zara nearly ran from the building, the cool evening air doing nothing to dispel the chill that had settled in her bones. That night, she dreamed of Mrs. Blackwood wandering through an endless maze of mirrors, growing younger with each reflection until the final mirror showed only an empty dress floating in darkness. "You've been avoiding me, Zara." Esmeralda's voice cut through the busy hum of the main studio floor. A week had passed since Mrs. Blackwood's disappearance, and Zara had managed to keep her distance from Esmeralda by taking on regular clients and basic treatments. "Not at all," Zara lied, her heart racing. "I've just been focusing on building my client base." "Admirable," Esmeralda said, though her tone suggested otherwise. "But I have special plans for you. You have potential." The way she said potential made it sound like a diagnosis rather than a compliment. "Follow me," Esmeralda commanded, already turning away. "There's something I need to show you." They passed through the main studio, past the training rooms, and into areas of the building Zara had never seen before. The marble and gold gave way to darker materials, mahogany panels, deep purple velvet drapes, and strangely, walls that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Few are invited to this part of eternal radiance," Esmeralda explained as they descended a spiral staircase. "Only those with the gift." "What gift?" Zara asked, though part of her didn't want to know. "The ability to see beyond the surface. To understand that beauty is more than appearance, it's energy, life force." They stopped before an obsidian door carved with symbols similar to those Zara had seen on the ancient artifacts in the display cases. Esmeralda pressed her palm to the center of the door, and Zara could have sworn she saw the older woman's veins glow briefly beneath her skin. The door swung open silently, revealing a circular chamber that reminded Zara of an alchemist's laboratory from some medieval fantasy. Glass containers of various shapes lined the walls, filled with liquids that seemed to move of their own accord. A large bronze basin stood in the center, surrounded by mirrors positioned at precise angles. But what caught Zara's attention were the portraits hanging between the shelves, dozens of women spanning different eras based on their clothing and hairstyles. Each portrait was labeled with a name and 2 dates. "Your predecessors," Esmeralda said, following Zara's gaze. "My special apprentices throughout the years." Zara's mouth went dry. "Throughout the years? But some of these look ancient." Esmeralda laughed, a sound like crystal breaking. "I'm older than I appear, dear one. Much older." Zara's eyes fell on a portrait that made her blood freeze, a young woman with alabaster skin and amber eyes. "Kira," she whispered. "She had potential too," Esmeralda said casually. "But she asked too many questions, made too many connections." "Where is she now?" Zara managed to ask, though she feared the answer. Esmeralda gestured to a small crystal bottle on a nearby shelf. Inside was a swirling golden mist that seemed to form a face when the light hit it just right. "She contributes to the cause in her own way now," Esmeralda said. "Beauty is sacrifice, Zara. Some give a little, some give everything." Horror washed over Zara as understanding dawned. The missing women, the strange transformations, the energy transfer. Esmeralda wasn't enhancing beauty, she was stealing it. "Why are you showing me this?" Zara asked, struggling to keep her voice steady. "Because you're different," Esmeralda said, reaching out to touch Zara's cheek with those unnaturally cool fingers. "You have the potential to be more than an assistant, more than a resource. You could be my successor." The idea was simultaneously terrifying and, Zara was ashamed to admit, tempting. To never age, to possess that kind of power, to be worshipped as Esmeralda was. "Think about it," Esmeralda continued. "Eternal youth, eternal beauty. All it requires is selective compassion." "And if I refuse?" Zara asked, already knowing the answer. Esmeralda's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Then you'd make a lovely addition to my collection." She gestured to the bottles. "But I hope it doesn't come to that. I see myself in you, Zara. The hunger, the ambition." As they left the forbidden room, Zara felt a weight settle in her chest. She had confirmation of what she'd suspected, and now she had a choice to make. As if reading her thoughts, Esmeralda added softly, "Don't try to run, little one. The marks of eternal radiance are already on you. I would find you anywhere." And looking down at her hands, Zara was horrified to see faint symbols appearing on her skin, the same symbols from the door, glowing softly before fading into invisible patterns she could still somehow feel. She was already part of this. The question was, how deep would she go? The invitation arrived at Zara's apartment that evening, a black envelope sealed with crimson wax, containing a single card embossed with gold lettering. Asterisk, the honor of your presence is requested at the midnight ritual. Asterisk. Asterisk, the temple of beauty awaits its newest acolyte. Asterisk. Asterisk, come alone. Come prepared to give and to receive. Asterisk. Another late night at the studio. Lynn asked from the kitchen doorway, eyeing the envelope suspiciously. Something like that, Zara replied, tucking the invitation away. She hadn't told her roommate about the strange happenings at Eternal Radiance, partly because she didn't want to worry her, but mostly because she doubted anyone would believe her. "You've been different since you started working there," Lynn said carefully. "Distant. And you look, I don't know, both better and worse somehow." Zara avoided her gaze. She knew what Lynn meant. Her skin had taken on a luminous quality lately. Her eyes seemed brighter, her hair shinier. But dark circles had formed under those bright eyes, and she'd lost weight she couldn't afford to lose. "It's just stress," she lied. "The beauty industry is competitive." Lynn didn't look convinced. "Just be careful, okay? There are rumors about that place, about women who go in and don't come out the same." If only you knew, Zara thought. At 11:30 p.m., Zara stood before her mirror, dressed in the black silk robe that had been included with the invitation. The symbols on her skin were more visible now, glowing faintly blue in the dimness of her bedroom. "This is insane," she whispered to her reflection. "I should call the police." But what would she tell them? That her boss was an ageless being stealing women's beauty and life force? That she kept their essences in bottles? They'd think she was delusional. And deeper down, a small, dark part of her was curious, wanted to know more, wanted that power. The walk to Eternal Radiance took exactly 27 minutes. The streets of Aurelian City were unusually quiet, the normal sounds of traffic and nightlife muffled as if the world itself was holding its breath. The door opened before Zara could knock, revealing Daphne, but not the polished, professional Daphne from the reception desk. This version wore a similar black robe, her hair wild, her eyes ringed with kohl. "You came," she said, sounding surprised. "Most run after they see the room." "I'm not most people," Zara replied, summoning courage she didn't feel. "Clearly not." Daphne's smile was cold. "Follow me. The others are waiting." The others turned out to be a dozen women of various ages, all wearing the same black robes, all with the same hungry look in their eyes. They stood in a circle around the bronze basin Zara had seen earlier, which now contained a liquid that gleamed like mercury. At the head of the circle stood Esmeralda, but not as Zara had ever seen her. Gone was the sleek, sophisticated beauty mogul. In her place stood something ancient and terrible, her beauty now sharp as a blade, her eyes completely black, her skin almost translucent, showing the network of veins beneath. "Welcome, Zara," her voice echoing strangely. "Tonight, you will witness the source of our power. Tonight, you will make your choice." Two women entered, half dragging a third between them. With a shock, Zara recognized the captive as Kira, the same Kira she had seen in the portrait, the same Kira whose essence supposedly swirled in a crystal bottle. "But how?" Zara gasped. "The bottles contain only a fraction of their being," Esmeralda explained, as if discussing the weather. "Enough to power our products, to transfer beauty and youth to our clients. But the shell remains useful for special occasions." Kira's eyes were vacant, her movements puppet-like. She didn't struggle as she was positioned before the basin. "The ritual of renewal requires sacrifice," Esmeralda continued. "Fresh essence, freely given or otherwise acquired." "This is wrong," Zara said, finding her voice. "You can't just take from people like this." "Can't I?" Esmeralda raised an eyebrow. "I've been doing so for centuries, and you've been benefiting from it since you arrived. Have you looked in the mirror lately? Zara, have you noticed how your skin glows? How men and women alike can't take their eyes off you? It was true. Zara had noticed the changes, attributed them to good skincare and confidence. But deep down, she'd known something unnatural was happening. Tonight, you will participate, Esmeralda said, her tone brooking no argument. You will help extract Kira's remaining essence. You will feel the power it brings. And then you will decide, join us fully, or become like her. A silver brush was pressed into Zara's hand. It felt unnaturally heavy, and the handle was warm, almost as if it had a pulse. Apply the midnight serum to her face, Esmeralda instructed. Feel the flow of energy. Embrace it. The circle of women began to chant in a language Zara didn't recognize but somehow understood. Ancient words about beauty and sacrifice, power and submission. Zara looked down at the brush in her hand, then at Kira's empty eyes. In that moment, she knew she was standing at a crossroads. One path led to power, eternal beauty, and the corruption of her soul. The other would require a courage she wasn't sure she possessed. The silver brush clattered to the floor, the sound echoing in the sudden silence. No, Zara said, her voice stronger than she expected. I won't do this. The chanting stopped. The women of the circle stared at her with expressions ranging from shock to fury. Think carefully, Zara, she said softly. This isn't an offer I make lightly, nor one you can refuse without consequence. I don't care about consequences, Zara replied, though her racing heart betrayed her fear. This is wrong. What you're doing, what you've been doing for centuries, it's monstrous. A ripple of whispers passed through the circle. Esmeralda silenced them with a gesture. Monstrous. She laughed, the sound like shattering glass. Nature is monstrous, dear one. The lioness that devours the gazelle. The spider that consumes her mate. I simply follow the natural order, the strong feeding on the weak, the special consuming the ordinary. There's nothing natural about this, Zara countered, gesturing to Kira's empty shell and the glowing basin. This is perversion. Esmeralda's expression hardened. You disappoint me, Zara. I saw such potential in you. But if you won't join us willingly. She nodded to Daphne and another woman, who moved toward Zara with predatory grace. Zara backed away, but found herself against the wall. Panic rose in her throat as the women approached, their fingernails lengthening into something resembling claws. And then, inexplicably, the lights went out. In the sudden darkness, chaos erupted. Women screamed, objects crashed to the floor, and somewhere, glass shattered. Zara felt a hand grasp her wrist, not with the cold, claw-like grip she expected, but something warm and human. This way, a voice whispered urgently in her ear. Quickly. Having no better option, Zara allowed herself to be pulled through the darkness. They stumbled through unseen corridors, up what felt like servant stays, and finally through a door that opened onto the rooftop. The night air hit Zara like a physical force after the claustrophobic atmosphere below. She gulped it greedily, turning to see her rescuer, a slight figure in a maintenance uniform with a flashlight, face obscured by a cap. Who are you? Zara demanded. How did you know I needed help? The figure removed the cap, releasing a cascade of familiar amber eyes. Kira, Zara gasped. But how? I just saw you downstairs. That wasn't me, the real Kira said grimly. Not anymore. What you saw was a hollow, a body without its full essence. Esmeralda keeps them for rituals and replacements. Replacements. When a client or apprentice disappears, sometimes Esmeralda needs to maintain the illusion that they are still around. The hollows serve that purpose. Zara's mind reeled. But I thought you were. In a bottle. Kira gave a bitter laugh. Part of me is. But I managed to escape before she took it all. I've been working as maintenance here, watching, waiting for someone like you. Someone like me. Someone who could see the truth and would choose to fight it. Kira's expression was fierce. There aren't many. Most are either too blind to see what's happening or too seduced by the promise of power to care. A crash sounded from below, followed by angry shouts. Their absence had been discovered. We need to move, Kira urged. They'll search the building first, but they won't stay contained for long. Where can we go? Zara asked. Esmeralda said she could find me anywhere because of these. She held up her hands, where the symbols still glowed faintly. Not anywhere, Kira corrected. There are places even her power can't reach. Sanctuaries maintained by those who fought her kind for generations. Her kind? You mean there are more like her? Kira's expression darkened. Beauty parasites. They've gone by many names throughout history. Vampires, succubi, lamia. They feed on essence, youth, beauty, vitality to maintain their own immortality. More crashes from below. Closer now. Come on, Kira said, leading Zara to the edge of the roof. There's a fire escape on the east side. We can make it to the sanctuary by dawn if we hurry. As they fled across the rooftops of Aurelian City, Zara looked back once at the Temple of Beauty. For a moment, she thought she saw a figure standing at the highest window, Esmeralda, her face contorted with rage, her hand outstretched as if trying to grasp something that had slipped through her fingers. Then they were descending the fire escape, disappearing into the labyrinth of alleyways below, where shadows offered temporary protection from the ancient hunger that pursued them. They arrived at the sanctuary as the first light of dawn brushed the eastern sky. Zara had expected something grand, a temple to rival Esmeralda's, perhaps, or at least a fortified compound. Instead, Kira led her to an unassuming brownstone on the edge of the old quarter, distinguished only by the potted herbs flanking its door and the subtle protective symbols etched into its threshold. This is it? Zara asked, unable to keep the disappointment from her voice. What were you expecting? Flashing neon signs saying evil beauty queens not welcome? Kira's laugh was gentle but strained. They had been moving all night, taking circuitous routes through the city, doubling back, and changing transportation methods to throw off potential pursuers. I guess I thought it would be more impressive, Zara admitted. That's Esmeralda's style, not ours, Kira said as she knocked on the door in a specific pattern. We believe true beauty lies in simplicity and authenticity. The door opened to reveal an elderly woman with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. Despite her age, her skin glowed with health, and her eyes, a startling shade of violet, were sharp and clear. Kira, she said, her voice warm but concerned. You've brought a marked one. She rejected the ritual, Grandmother Elena, Kira explained. She chose to fight. Elena studied Zara intently, her gaze lingering on the symbols that still glowed faintly on Zara's skin. Brave, she said finally, or foolish, perhaps both. Come inside, quickly. The interior of the brownstone was a surprise, not the cramped, old-fashioned space Zara had expected, but an open, airy atrium filled with plants and natural light. Women of all ages moved through the space, some mixing herbs, others reading from ancient-looking texts, still others practicing what appeared to be martial arts movements. Welcome to the Sisterhood of True Reflection, Elena said, guiding them through the atrium. We've opposed Esmeralda and her kind for centuries. You've been fighting her for centuries. Zara asked, how is that possible? We don't extend our lives through theft, Elena explained. We pass our knowledge from generation to generation. I am the 23rd guardian of this sanctuary, inheriting the mantle from my mother, who received it from hers. They entered a circular room lined with shelves of books and jars of herbs. In the center stood a large silver basin, similar to the one in Esmeralda's ritual chamber, but this one contained clear water that sparkled in the morning light. First, we must remove her mark from you, Elena said, gesturing for Zara to approach the basin. As long as you bear Esmeralda's symbols, you are connected to her. She can track you, influence your dreams, even draw on your energy from a distance. How do we remove them? Zara asked, looking down at the faint patterns on her skin with revulsion. Water from the spring of truth, Elena explained, indicating the basin. It dissolves illusions and breaks unnatural bonds. But I must warn you, the process is painful. The marks have already begun to root in your essence. Zara swallowed hard but stepped forward. I'll do whatever it takes. Immerse your hands and focus on your true self, Elena instructed. Not the self that desires beauty or power, but the core of who you are. As Zara plunged her hands into the water, pain shot up her arms like electricity. The symbols on her skin began to glow brighter, pulsing angrily as if alive and fighting their removal. Gritting her teeth, Zara closed her eyes and focused as Elena had instructed, not on the beauty apprentice she had become, but on the curious, determined girl from a small town who had come to the city with dreams of helping others feel beautiful in their own skin. Slowly, agonizingly, the symbols began to fade, dissolving into the water like ink. When the last mark disappeared, Zara collapsed, exhausted but lighter somehow, as if a weight had been lifted. Rest now, Elena said softly. Tomorrow, your real education begins. That night, for the first time since starting at Eternal Radiance, Zara slept without dreams of mirrors and shadows. The history of beauty is a history of power, Elena began. A week had passed since Zara's arrival at the sanctuary. Her strength had returned, and with it, a determination to understand what she was fighting against. Now she sat with other newcomers in what the sisterhood called the Chamber of Wisdom, a cozy library filled with texts both ancient and modern. Throughout time, those who defined beauty held power over others, Elena continued, pacing slowly before them. Sometimes this power was cultural or social, but sometimes, for creatures like Esmeralda, it is literal, tangible power, life force harvested from others. She gestured to a series of portraits on the wall, women from different historical periods who shared a striking similarity despite their diverse appearances. Esmeralda has worn many faces, many names. In ancient Egypt, she was Nefertiti's handmaiden, whispering secrets of eternal youth. In Renaissance Italy, she was the mysterious countess who bathed in young women's blood. In Victorian England, she sold potions that promised to preserve delicate complexions. How old is she exactly? One of the newcomers asked. We don't know, Elena admitted. Our earliest records mention a beautiful stranger who arrived from the East, bringing miraculous cosmetics and unnatural youth. That was over 3,000 years ago. Zara gasped. 3,000 years. Is she human at all? She was once, Elena said. Our text suggests she was originally a priestess who discovered, or was granted, the secret of extracting life essence through ritual. The first transfer may have been consensual, a dying queen perhaps, passing her remaining years to a trusted servant. But power corrupts, and immortality corrupts absolutely. But why doesn't anyone know about this? Zara asked. In the age of social media and constant documentation, how can they remain hidden? Who would believe it? Kira interjected from where she sat by the window. And those who might are usually seduced by the promise of beauty before they can reveal the truth. Besides, they are careful. They move in cycles, changing locations and identities every few decades before suspicions grow too strong. Exactly, Elena nodded. And they've adapted to modern times. Where once they used crude rituals and bloodletting, they now hide behind corporations, proprietary formulas, and scientific-sounding jargon. Eternal Radiance is just the latest incarnation of Esmeralda's feeding ground. Zara thought of the clients she'd seen transformed, how they left looking younger but somehow diminished. The treatments, she said slowly, they give temporary beauty but steal something permanent, don't they? Yes, Elena confirmed. Each treatment transfers a portion of the client's life force to Esmeralda and her inner circle. The client receives temporary youth and beauty in return, but each time they give away more than they receive. It becomes addictive. As the treatments drain them, they need more frequent fixes until they are empty, Zara finished. Like the hollow eyesore of Kira. The most loyal clients, the ones who give everything, become hollows, Kira said bitterly. Walking shells that serve as assistants, models, even sacrifices when needed. Zara thought of the millions of women worldwide who used Eternal Radiance products, unknowingly participating in this parasitic system. The scale of it was overwhelming. How do we fight something so vast? She whispered. One truth at a time, Elena said firmly. Beauty parasites thrive in shadows and lies. Authentic beauty, The kind that radiates from health, joy, and self-acceptance is their greatest threat. She moved to a cabinet and withdrew several small vials filled with golden liquid. This is essence freely given by our sisters, small donations of energy that, when combined with natural ingredients, create truly nurturing products. We distribute them quietly, building a network of truth amid the empire of illusion. But it's not enough, Kira said, a hint of frustration in her voice. We need to strike at the source. Elena's expression grew serious. Which brings us to why your arrival is so timely, Zara. Every century, Esmeralda performs a grand ritual during the blood moon to renew her core power. Without it, her stolen beauty would fade, her true age would manifest, and her hold over her empire would crumble. When is the next blood moon? Zara asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. 3 weeks from now, Elena confirmed. And according to our intelligence, you were being groomed as a special sacrifice, a natural channel with unusual potential. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to Zara. Me. But why? Some souls have a greater capacity for beauty, not just physical beauty, but the ability to see and create beauty in the world, Elena explained. Such souls are rare and especially potent for creatures like Esmeralda. When you applied to eternal radiance, her scouts must have recognized your potential. Zara remembered how quickly she'd been accepted, how Esmeralda had taken a personal interest in her from the beginning. It had seemed like luck at the time. Now she understood it had been something far more calculated. So what do we do? She asked. We turn their plan against them, Kira said, her amber eyes gleaming with determination. We use your connection to infiltrate the grand ritual and end Esmeralda's reign once and for all. But my connection was severed when you removed the marks, Zara pointed out. Elena and Kira exchanged a significant look. Not entirely, Elena said carefully. The water dissolved the visible marks, but once chosen, always marked in some way. Esmeralda will still sense you if you get close enough, and that's exactly what we're counting on. A chill ran down Zara's spine as she realized what they were suggesting. The training was rigorous. By day, Zara learned the sisterhood's methods of authentic beauty, natural formulations that enhanced rather than exploited, rituals of self-care that nourished the spirit as well as the skin. By night, she practiced mental techniques to shield her thoughts and intentions from Esmeralda's psychic probing. Imagine your mind as a series of rooms, Elena instructed during one particularly exhausting session. Create a false front room filled with the thoughts you want her to see. Fear, confusion, regret for your escape. Behind that, build walls to protect your true intentions. 2 weeks into her training, Zara was practicing alone in the sanctuary's garden when a movement at the gate caught her attention. A hooded figure stood there, wavering slightly as if struggling to remain upright. Instinctively, Zara reached for the small dagger the sisterhood had given her, blessed silver, effective against beauty parasites and their servants. Who goes there? She called. Help! Me. The voice was barely audible, but achingly familiar. The figure pushed back its hood, revealing a face Zara knew well, Mrs. Blackwood, the client who had disappeared after her special treatment. But this wasn't the rejuvenated version Zara had last seen. This Mrs. Blackwood looked drained, her skin hanging loosely as if something essential had been sucked out from beneath it. Mrs. Blackwood. Zara rushed forward as the woman swayed dangerously. How did you find this place? Followed. You. Mrs. Blackwood gasped as Zara helped her to a bench. Not much time. The Hollow remembers. You're a Hollow? Zara asked, confused. The woman before her seemed too aware, too present to be one of the vacant shells she'd seen at Eternal Radiance. Not completely. Not yet. Mrs. Blackwood's eyes focused on Zara with effort. When they drain us, they take memories too. She clutched Zara's arm with surprising strength. I remembered you. Your kindness, different from the others. By now, their conversation had attracted attention. Elena and Kira hurried from the house, expressions alarmed when they saw the visitor. A Hollow? Elena asked sharply, hand moving to her own concealed weapon. Not completely, Zara repeated Mrs. Blackwood's words. She found her way here on her own. She's fighting it. Elena approached cautiously, examining the woman with expert eyes. Extraordinary, she murmured. I've never seen anyone resist the hollowing process once it's begun. Will, power, Mrs. Blackwood managed. And anger. So much anger. They brought her inside, to a quiet room where Elena examined her more thoroughly. Kira brought a special tea, a restoration blend, she explained, that might temporarily boost the woman's remaining energy. As Mrs. Blackwood sipped the steaming liquid, color returned to her cheeks, and her speech became clearer. I've been Esmeralda's client for 15 years, she explained. At first, just regular treatments. Anti-aging creams, special facials. But as I got older, she offered something more, the complete renewal. The essence transfer, Kira nodded grimly. She said it was a breakthrough technology. Stem cells and ray botanicals. I believed her. Mrs. Blackwood's laugh was hollow. Each treatment made me look younger, feel younger, for a while. But the effects lasted shorter each time. I needed more frequent sessions, stronger formulations. The addiction cycle, Elena murmured. After my last treatment, the one you assisted with, she nodded to Zara, I began to feel empty. Not just tired, but as if parts of me were missing. Memories, emotions, all fading. Then one night, they took me to the chamber beneath the studio. Esmeralda performed a ritual, and I felt myself splitting somehow. Part of me went into one of her crystal bottles, but part remained, watching, trapped in a body I could no longer fully control. Tay slid down her papery cheeks. I've been serving her for weeks now, a puppet on strings, conscious but unable to resist. Until yesterday, when something changed. What happened yesterday? Zara asked. Preparation for the grand ritual began. Esmeralda gathered all her hollows, dozens of us, and started feeding us a special elixir to make us more receptive. But instead of making me more compliant, it somehow strengthened what was left of my true self. I managed to slip away during the confusion of preparations. Elena and Kira exchanged significant looks. This changes our intelligence, Elena said. We thought the ritual was still a week away. It's been moved up, Mrs. Blackwood confirmed. Tomorrow night. The astronomical calculations showed a more powerful alignment than originally expected. Tomorrow. Zara felt panic rising. But we're not ready. We have to be, Kira said firmly. This may be our only chance. If Esmeralda completes the grand ritual, she'll gain enough power to last another century. There's more, Mrs. Blackwood added, her voice dropping to a whisper. The ritual requires a special sacrifice, a pure vessel. She's been preparing someone for months. We know, Elena said grimly. Zara was meant to be that vessel. Mrs. Blackwood shook her head weakly. Not anymore. Since Zara escaped, she's chosen another. A young woman named Lynn. The name hit Zara like a physical blow. Lynn, my roommate? But how? Why? Proximity, Elena realized. Living with you, she must have absorbed some of your energy, your potential. And she'd be perfect leverage to draw you back. We have to save her. Zara jumped to her feet. And we will, Elena assured her. But we must be strategic. This is still our best opportunity to end Esmeralda's reign once and for all. Through the night, they revised their plans, incorporating Mrs. Blackwood's insider knowledge of the ritual preparations. By dawn, they had a new strategy, riskier than before, but with the potential to save Lynn and stop Esmeralda permanently. As the others made final preparations, Zara slipped into the sanctuary's garden to center herself. Tomorrow night, she would return to the Temple of Beauty, not as an apprentice, but as a warrior. Touching the silver dagger at her hip, she whispered a promise to the rising sun. Hold on, Lynn. I'm coming for you. Aurelian City's evening skyline glittered like jewels against velvet as Zara approached eternal radiance. From the outside, the building looked as magnificent as ever, marble gleaming, gold accents catching the last rays of sunlight. No one passing by would suspect the darkness that dwelled within. Remember the plan? Kira's voice came through the tiny communication device hidden in Zara's earring. Get to the ritual chamber, locate Lynn, and wait for our signal. Don't engage Esmeralda directly. I remember, Zara murmured, adjusting the elegant black dress Elena had provided, similar enough to the ritual robes to allow her to blend in, but embedded with protective symbols woven into the fabric with silver thread. In her purse, disguised as makeup, were the sisterhood's weapons, a compact containing powder made from crushed moonstone, capable of temporarily blinding a beauty parasite, a lipstick tube hiding a concentrated essence restoration serum for Lynn, and a perfume atomizer filled with water from the spring of truth. Most importantly, strapped to her thigh beneath the dress was the blessed silver dagger, the only weapon capable of truly ending a beauty parasite. They'll sense me coming, Zara had worried during planning. Count on it, Elena had replied. Your presence will create the very distraction we need. Now, as Zara walked purposefully toward the employee entrance, she projected the thoughts they had rehearsed. Regret for running, fear of aging, desperate longing for the power and beauty Esmeralda had offered. The false front room in her mind. The door opened before she could reach for it. Daphne stood there, her perfect features showing surprise that didn't reach her eyes. Well, she said silkily. The prodigal apprentice returns. How convenient. I made a mistake, Zara said, infusing her voice with rehearsed desperation. I was scared, confused, but I've had time to think, and I want what Esmeralda offered. I want to be special. Daphne's smile was cruel. Oh, you'll be special tonight, all right. More special than you know. She stepped aside. She's expecting you. The interior of Eternal Radiance had transformed. Gone were the elegant displays and fashionable clients. Instead, the spaces were filled with beautiful, vacant-eyed women in black, hollows preparing for the ritual, moving with unnatural synchronicity as they carried vessels of strange liquids and bundles of herbs. This way, Daphne directed, leading Zara through corridors that seemed to descend deeper than architecturally possible. The mistress is below, making final preparations. How long has this place really been here? Zara asked, partly to maintain her cover, partly out of genuine curiosity. This specific building. Daphne shrugged. 50 years or so. But the chamber beneath has existed since the city's founding. Before that, there was another chamber in another city. The mistress builds her temples atop places of power. They reached a massive door that Zara recognized, the entrance to the ritual chamber where she had refused to participate in Kira's sacrifice. But now the door stood open, revealing a space transformed. Lynn, Zara gasped, momentarily forgetting her cover. Her roommate lay unnaturally still, dressed in white, her skin painted with symbols similar to those that had marked Zara. Her eyes were open but unseeing, her chest barely moving with shallow breaths. Yes, your little friend proved quite receptive, came a voice that sent chills down Zara's spine. Not as naturally gifted as you, but proximity to your aura enhanced her potential significantly. Esmeralda emerged from the shadows beyond the altar. She was even more terrifying than Zara remembered, her beauty now so intense it was painful to behold. Welcome home, little one, she purred. I knew you would return to us. Zara forced herself to bow, fighting every instinct that screamed at her to run. Mistress, I was foolish to leave. Indeed you were. Esmeralda circled her slowly, like a shark assessing prey. The sisterhood filled your head with their quaint notions of natural beauty and ethical practices, no doubt. Zara's heart stuttered. How did Esmeralda know where she'd been? As if reading her thoughts, Esmeralda laughed. Oh yes, I know all about Elena and her little cult of authenticity. We've been playing this game for centuries, she and I. Or rather, she and her ancestors. While I remain eternal. She reached out to stroke Zara's cheek with fingers that felt like ice. Did they send you to save your friend? To disrupt my ritual? Her smile was terrible in its beauty. Or perhaps, to kill me. Before Zara could respond, Esmeralda's hand shot out, grasping her purse and emptying its contents. The disguised weapons clattered to the stone floor. Moonstone powder. Truth water. How predictable. Esmeralda kicked them aside dismissively. And I assume there's a silver dagger somewhere on your person? No matter. You won't be needing it. With a gesture, Zara found herself immobilized, held in place by an invisible force as Daphne approached with a golden chalice. "You're just in time," Esmeralda continued. "The alignment begins in moments. Your essence will make a welcome addition to our celebration, not as the primary sacrifice, but useful nonetheless." "You won't succeed," Zara managed to say through clenched teeth. "The sisterhood knows I'm here. They're coming." "I'm counting on it." Esmeralda's smile widened. "Let them come. Each new sister captured means more essence for the ritual, more power for me." Around them, the hollow attendants began to chant, a sound like broken glass being ground underfoot, painful to human ears. The symbols on the walls started to glow with an unhealthy light. "The alignment begins," Esmeralda announced to the assembled hollows. The veil thins. "The ancient ones awaken to our call." Daphne approached Zara with the chalice. "Drink," she commanded. "Become part of something greater than yourself." Zara felt her free will slipping, overwhelmed by the chanting, the symbols, Esmeralda's overwhelming presence. This wasn't part of the plan. She was supposed to wait, to observe, to create a distraction when the sisterhood arrived. But they were too late. As the chalice touched her lips, Zara made a desperate decision. Focusing all her mental energy on the shield techniques Elena had taught her, she let her outer defenses drop completely, deliberately revealing not the false front room they had constructed, but her true intentions, her connection to the sisterhood, and most importantly, the knowledge Mrs. Blackwood had provided. The effect was immediate. Esmeralda recoiled as if struck, her perfect features contorting in shock and rage. "Betrayer," she hissed at someone beyond Zara's vision. "You led them to us." Zara managed to turn her head just enough to see Mrs. Blackwood emerging from among the hollows, her formerly vacant expression now alive with purpose. "Not just me," Mrs. Blackwood said, her voice stronger than it had been at the sanctuary. "All of us. The essence you stole isn't truly gone. It leaves echoes." Around the chamber, something strange was happening. One by one, hollows were stopping their chants, their vacant expressions flickering with confusion and then dawning awareness. "What have you done?" Esmeralda shrieked, her beautiful facade cracking to reveal something ancient and terrible beneath. "Given them back their voices," came Elena's calm reply as she stepped from the shadows, flanked by Kira and dozens of sisterhood members. "Their choice." The invisible force holding Zara weakened as Esmeralda's concentration faltered. Breaking free, she launched herself toward the altar where Lynn lay unconscious. Chaos erupted in the chamber. Hollows turned on their mistress, centuries of stolen lives demanding retribution. Sisterhood members engaged Esmeralda's still loyal acolytes in combat that was both physical and metaphysical, flashes of energy crackling between opponents as they fought for control of the ritual space. Reaching Lynn, Zara frantically began removing the symbols painted on her friend's skin, using the techniques Elena had taught her to disrupt their power. "Come back, Lynn," she whispered urgently. "Find your way back to yourself." Behind her, a scream of rage cut through the cacophony. Esmeralda, her perfect form now fluctuating between beauty and something monstrous, confronting Elena at the edge of the ritual circle. "You cannot defeat me," Esmeralda howled. "I have endured for millennia. I am beauty itself." "No," Elena countered calmly. "You are merely its parasite." As they clashed in a blinding flash of energy, Zara turned back to Lynn, whose eyes were beginning to focus, recognition dawning in their depths. "Zara," she whispered, "what's happening? Where am I?" "It's a long story," Zara said, helping her friend sit up. "But right now, we need to move." The chamber was beginning to destabilize, chunks of ancient stone falling from the ceiling, fissures opening in the floor as energies meant to feed the ritual rebounded chaotically. Across the chamber, Elena and Esmeralda remained locked in combat, light against shadow, authenticity against illusion. But even from a distance, Zara could see that Elena was weakening, her mortal form unable to withstand Esmeralda's power indefinitely. The silver dagger at Zara's thigh seemed to burn through the fabric of her dress, demanding to be used. She had a choice to make. "Get her out of here," Zara instructed Kira, who had fought her way to the altar through the chaos. "Take Lynn to safety." "What about you?" Kira asked, supporting the still dazed Lynn. I have to help Elena. Zara's hand moved to the silver dagger. Go. Now. As Kira led Lynn toward one of the emergency exits the sisterhood had identified, Zara turned back to the heart of the battle. Elena and Esmeralda remained locked in their supernatural struggle, but the balance was shifting. Elena, powerful as she was, remained mortal, while Esmeralda drew on centuries of stolen vitality. Around them, the chamber continued to destabilize. The ritual circle, disrupted by the fighting, had become a maelstrom of wild energy. Hollows who had awakened from Esmeralda's control were fleeing, guided by sisterhood members. Those still loyal to their mistress fought with desperate ferocity, aware that their existence depended on her survival. Zara moved carefully toward the combatants, the silver dagger now drawn and gleaming with an inner light of its own. Elena had explained its power, forged from silver mined under a full moon, tempered with truth water, and blessed by generations of sisterhood guardians. One of only 7 such weapons in existence. Beauty built on truth can never be destroyed, Elena had told her. But beauty built on theft and deception can be undone by revealing its true nature. Now, watching Esmeralda's form flicker between breathtaking beauty and something ancient and monstrous, Zara understood. The parasite's power lay in illusion, the ability to make others see perfection where there was truly corruption. Elena spotted Zara approaching and, understanding her intention, redoubled her efforts, forcing Esmeralda to focus entirely on their metaphysical battle. You are nothing without your stolen beauty. Elena taunted. Show your true face, parasite. My beauty is truth. Esmeralda howled, her voice distorting. I am what all desire to be. Perfect. Eternal. Worshipped. You're a thief, Zara called, drawing closer. Nothing more. Esmeralda's head snapped toward her, black eyes widening at the sight of the silver dagger. You wouldn't dare, she hissed. Destroy me, and you destroy beauty itself in this world. No, Zara countered, thinking of the sisterhood's work, the natural formulations, the rituals of self-care, the celebration of authentic beauty in all its forms. True beauty doesn't need to feed on others. It nourishes, it uplifts, it heals. With Elena maintaining her mystical hold on Esmeralda, Zara lunged forward, driving the silver dagger not toward Esmeralda's heart, but toward the center of her forehead, the seat of illusion, according to Elena's teachings. The blade connected with a sound like shattering crystal. Esmeralda's scream transcended human hearing, becoming a wave of energy that knocked everyone in the chamber to the ground. The walls shuddered, ancient stones grinding against each other as the temple began to collapse in earnest. As Zara struggled to her feet, the sight before her took her breath away. Where Esmeralda had stood was now a figure out of nightmare, withered and ancient, skin like parchment stretched over bone, mouth a hollow cave lined with needle-like teeth. Only the eyes remained recognizable, black, endless, and filled with cold hunger. What have you done? The creature that had been Esmeralda rasped, reaching toward its face where the dagger protruded. My beautiful mask. Revealed your truth, Elena said, her voice weary but triumphant as she leaned heavily on a fallen column. As you truly are, so shall you be seen by all. Around them, the remaining hollows and acolytes stared in horror at their mistress's true form. One by one, they began to flee, their faith in beauty's promise shattered by the grotesque reality before them. No, Esmeralda, or the thing that had worn her name, shrieked. I have fed on beauty for millennia. I have bathed in the essence of thousands. I am beauty. You're a parasite, Zara said simply, and your time is over. With unexpected speed, the creature lunged at her, clawed hands outstretched. But as it moved, its body began to disintegrate, not crumbling to dust as in stories, but dissolving into countless tiny points of light that spread outward like a revised supernova. My essence, it wailed. My collection. Zara understood with sudden clarity. These lights were fragments of all the beauty, youth, and vitality Esmeralda had stolen over centuries. Released from their prison, they were returning to the world, some perhaps finding their original owners if they still lived, others simply rejoining the universe's flow of energy. The chamber shuddered again, more violently. We need to leave, Elena urged, pulling Zara toward the exit. Without Esmeralda's will maintaining it, this entire structure is collapsing, both physically and metaphysically. They ran through corridors that were rapidly transforming, opulent marble reverting to rough stone, gold accents tarnishing and crumbling to reveal the mundane materials beneath. The illusion of the Temple of Beauty was failing along with its mistress. Outside, in the cool night air of Aurelian City, they joined the other sisterhood members who had escaped. Together, they watched as eternal radiance, the gleaming temple that had dominated downtown for decades, seemed to age before their eyes. Marble cracked and weathered, gold dulled, and eventually, with a groan felt more than heard, the entire structure imploded, collapsing in on itself like a dying star. In its place remained only a much smaller, ordinary commercial building, the true structure that had been hidden beneath layers of Esmeralda's illusion. "Is it over?" Zara asked, watching as the cloud of dust settled over the ruins. "This chapter is," Elena confirmed. "Esmeralda was powerful, but she was just one of many beauty parasites in the world. Our work continues." Zara found Lynn seated on a nearby bench, wrapped in a sisterhood blanket, her face cleared of Esmeralda's symbols. "How are you feeling?" she asked her friend anxiously. "Like I've been asleep for a long time," Lynn replied, her eyes clearer now. "I remember bits and pieces. Esmeralda came to our apartment looking for you. She was so beautiful, so persuasive. I couldn't say no when she invited me to visit the studio." "I'm so sorry," Zara said, embracing her. "This is all my fault." "No," Elena interjected firmly. "This began long before you, Zara. But with your help, we've ended a reign of parasitic beauty that has lasted millennia." As emergency vehicles began to arrive, responding to reports of the building's collapse, the sisterhood members dispersed quietly into the night. Elena led Zara and Lynn to a waiting car. "Where are we going?" Lynn asked. "For now, back to the sanctuary," Elena replied. "You both need rest and healing. And then, if you choose, there is much work to be done." "What kind of work?" Zara asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Elena smiled, a genuine smile that transformed her elderly face with authentic beauty that needed no enhancement. "Teaching the world what real beauty is. Not something to be stolen or hoarded, but something to be cultivated, shared, and celebrated in all its diverse forms." As they drove away from the ruins of eternal radiance, Zara felt the weight of the past weeks lifting from her shoulders. In its place came a sense of purpose more powerful than anything Esmeralda had offered. True beauty, she now understood, wasn't found in eternal youth or perfect features, but in truth, compassion, and the courage to be authentically oneself. What lesson have you learned from the story? Drop your comments in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with loved ones. See you in the next video.